I drove 10 hours to meet my grandson, 10 straight hours. I left before sunrise when the sky was still dark and the roads were empty. I packed the trunk with baby blankets, a silver rattle that had belonged to my son, and a small envelope with cash tucked inside, just in case they needed help with anything. My son Ryan had called the night before. "Mom, Olivia's in early labor, it could happen anytime." 3 days earlier, Olivia had texted me herself. "We'd love for you to be here when Noah arrives." She even added a heart emoji. In 5 years of marriage, she had never once added a heart, but I didn't question it, because I wanted to believe we were turning a corner. I only stopped twice during the drive, once for gas, once for coffee. I kept my phone on the passenger seat, waiting for updates. Every vibration made my pulse jump. I imagined the moment I'd walk into that hospital room. Ryan hugging me, Olivia smiling, tired but grateful, the nurse placing my grandson in my arms. By the time I pulled into the hospital parking garage, it was close to midnight. My back ached from sitting so long, but I barely felt it. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, smoothed my hair, and whispered to myself, "You're finally a grandmother." Inside, the maternity floor was quiet but tense, that strange mix of exhaustion and anticipation that hangs in hospital hallways at night. "Room 412, the nurse said. "She's progressing." I smiled so wide my cheeks hurt. But before I could reach the delivery room doors, Ryan stepped out into the hallway. The look on his face stopped me cold. It wasn't joy, it wasn't relief, it was something closer to dread. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I laughed softly, thinking he was joking. "What do you mean? Olivia told me she wanted me here." He glanced back toward the delivery room, then lowered his voice. "She changed her mind." The words didn't register at first. "Changed her mind about what?" "About having people here." "I'm not people, Ryan, I'm your mother," he exhaled sharply. "She only wants family." The hallway felt suddenly too quiet. "I am family. She just wants it to be immediate family." The words hung between us. "Immediate family," I stared at him. "Ryan," I said slowly, "I carried you for 9 months, I raised you. I paid for your college textbooks when you were short on rent. If I'm not immediate family, then what am I?" He wouldn't look at me. "She's emotional. The doctor said stress isn't good right now. Please don't make this harder." Don't make this harder. I had driven 10 hours. 10 hours because they asked me to come. 10 hours because I thought I was wanted. 10 hours because I believed I was part of something. And now I was being treated like an inconvenience. Like stress. I could feel the sting rising behind my eyes, but I refused to let the tears fall there in that hallway under those fluorescent lights, in front of the son I had given everything to. "Okay," I said quietly. He looked relieved. That hurt more than anything. "I'll go to the hotel," I continued. "Call me when he's born." "Thanks, Mom, thanks." I turned around and walked back down the hallway. Each step felt heavier than the last. The elevator doors closed, and for the first time since leaving home, I felt the weight of all 10 hours pressing down on me. 4 days later, my phone rang, and everything changed. I didn't hear from them again until Wednesday morning. Ryan's name flashed across my phone at 9:18 a.m. I answered on the first ring. "He's here," he said, his voice thin with exhaustion. "Noah James. 7 pounds, 5 ounces. For a moment, nothing else mattered. "He's healthy?" I asked. "Yeah, he's perfect." Perfect. My grandson was alive, breathing, perfect. "When can I see him?" There was a pause, not long, but long enough. "Olivia's really tired, Mom. The delivery was harder than expected. Maybe give us a couple days to settle in." "A couple days?" "I'm 3 miles from the hospital, Ryan." "I know. I drove 10 hours." "I know." Another silence. "She just wants privacy right now." Privacy. I swallowed the ache in my throat. "All right," I said. "Call me when she's ready." He thanked me again, always polite, never protective. I spent the next 2 days in that hotel room. Room service trays stacked by the door, television murmuring in the background, my phone charging beside me like a lifeline. Every time it buzzed, my heart jumped. But it was never them. By Friday morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove back to the hospital, telling myself I wouldn't push. I just looked through the nursery window, just a glimpse, just proof he was real. The maternity desk was quiet. "I'm here to see Noah Carter," I told the nurse. She checked her computer. "They were discharged yesterday afternoon." Yesterday, no call, no message, no warning, just gone. I walked back to my car in a daze. I sat behind the steering wheel for a long time before starting the engine. Then I did what pride sometimes forces you to do. I drove home, 10 hours back. Alone. Sunday afternoon, I was in my kitchen unpacking the baby gifts I never got to give when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Hello, is this Diane Carter? Yes. This is Mountain Ridge Medical Center Billing Department. I'm calling regarding the outstanding balance for the birth of Noah Carter. My heart tightened. Outstanding balance? Yes, ma'am. The total due is $15,000. We're calling to confirm how you'd like to handle payment. I leaned against the counter. Excuse me? Our records show you signed as financial guarantor for the delivery. For a moment, I thought I had misheard her. I did what? You are listed as the responsible party for the $15,000 balance. I felt something shift inside me, not panic, not fear, something colder. When, I asked carefully, did I supposedly sign these documents? November 15th, 11:42 p.m. electronic submission. November 15th, 11:42 p.m. I walked to my purse and pulled out the gas receipt I hadn't thrown away yet. 11:39 p.m. interstate exit near the state line. I had been in my car, 3 states away. Ma'am, the billing representative continued, how would you like to arrange payment? I stared out my kitchen window at the quiet desert sky. I'd like you to email me those documents, I said calmly. There was a pause on her end now. Of course. And after that, I added, my voice steady, I'll tell you exactly how I plan to handle it. 4 days earlier, I had walked out of a hospital because I wasn't considered family. Now the hospital believed I was responsible for their $15,000 bill. And suddenly, everything made sense. The email arrived 12 minutes later. Subject line, Financial Responsibility Agreement, Noah Carter. My hands were steady when I opened it. They weren't steady when I finished reading it. There it was, my full name, my address, my date of birth, the last 4 digits of my social security number, and beneath it, a digital signature that looked almost exactly like mine. But it wasn't. The form clearly stated, Financial Guarantor, Diane Carter. Relationship to patient, maternal grandmother, maternal grandmother. Olivia's mother lives in Portland. I am the paternal grandmother, which meant this wasn't a clerical error. It was deliberate. I checked the timestamp again. 11:42 p.m. that night, I had been on the interstate, gripping the steering wheel in the dark, trying to stay awake. While I was driving 10 hours to be there for them, someone was signing my name to a $15,000 bill. I called the hospital back. This is Diane Carter again, I said evenly. I've reviewed the documents. Yes, ma'am, would you like to arrange a payment plan? No, I replied. I'd like to report identity theft. Silence. I'm sorry, I did not sign those forms. I was in another state at the time of submission. I have receipts, timestamps, and phone location data to prove it. Her tone shifted immediately. Ma'am, if you're alleging fraud, I need to transfer you to our legal department. Please do. While I waited on hold, I opened my phone. Photos from that night. A picture of the gas pump display. A time-stamped receipt. A text message Olivia had sent me at 11:35 p.m. Drive safe. We can't wait to see you. 5 minutes later, my forged signature was submitted. I felt the pieces sliding into place. The invitation. The exclusion. The silence. This wasn't emotional chaos in a delivery room. This had been planned. Mrs. Carter? A new voice came on the line. This is hospital legal counsel. I understand you're disputing financial responsibility. I'm not disputing it, I said calmly. I'm reporting fraud. I walked her through everything. The drive, the invitation, the rejection at the hospital, the discharge without telling me, the timestamp of the submission. There was a long pause when I finished. Mrs. Carter, she said carefully, if what you're saying is accurate, this is a serious matter. We will be initiating an internal fraud investigation immediately. All charges in your name are suspended. Suspended. Additionally, she continued, we will need copies of any documentation proving you were out of state at the time. You'll have them within the hour. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the screen. My grandson was 4 days old, I still hadn't held him, and now I was gathering evidence against his mother. My phone buzzed. Ryan, I let it ring twice before answering. Hi, Mom, just checking in. Hope you made it home safe. I almost laughed. I did. Olivia's recovering well, Noah's doing great. That's good. There was a hesitation in his voice. Hey, quick question, did the hospital call you about anything? There it was. Yes, I said evenly. They did. A beat. Oh, what did they say? They asked how I wanted to handle the $15,000 delivery bill. The silence on the other end was heavier this time. That doesn't make sense, he said quickly. Our insurance, Ryan, I interrupted gently. Why am I listed as financial guarantor? I don't know. Do you? Another pause. Mom, Olivia handles most of the paperwork. Of course she did. Well, I said calmly, the hospital is investigating it as fraud. Fraud? His voice cracked. Mom, don't overreact. I'm not overreacting. I stared at the forged signature again. I'm reacting appropriately? And for the first time since I'd driven 10 hours to that hospital, I wasn't the one standing outside the door anymore. The hospital called back the next morning. Mrs. Carter, this is legal. We've reviewed the preliminary data logs. I set my coffee down slowly. And the financial guarantor form was submitted from within the hospital's internal Wi-Fi network. Internal. Meaning whoever signed my name was inside the building. At what time? I asked, even though I already knew. 11:42 p.m., the exact minute I was still on the interstate. There's more, she continued. The submission came from a device registered to the patient portal under Olivia Carter's login credentials. There it was, not a hacker, not a random mistake. Olivia, I see, I said quietly. We are turning this over to our fraud prevention unit. Additionally, law enforcement will be notified. Forgery tied to medical billing is considered a felony offense. Felony, the word echoed in my kitchen. My grandson wasn't even a week old, and his mother was being investigated for a felony. I didn't call Ryan, I waited. He called me instead. Mom, what did you tell them? His voice was tight, panicked. I told them the truth. You didn't have to escalate it. Escalate? I repeated calmly. Ryan, someone forged my signature on a $15,000 financial agreement. It was probably just a misunderstanding. There's security data tying it to Olivia's login. Silence. Then softer, she wouldn't do that. She already did. His breathing grew heavier. Mom, if this turns into something legal, it already has. Another pause. You're her mother-in-law, he said quietly. We're family, that word again. Ryan, I replied evenly, 4 days ago I wasn't family. He didn't answer. By afternoon, a detective called. Mrs. Carter, this is Detective Mark Ellison with Salt Lake Financial Crimes. We're reviewing a forgery complaint tied to Mountain Ridge Medical Center. I gave him everything. The timeline, the text messages, the gas receipts, my location data. Do you believe this was intentional? He asked. Yes, why? Because the pieces were too clean, the invitation, the rejection, the discharge without telling me, the immediate billing. She invited me to drive 10 hours, I said quietly, and submitted the financial forms while I was still on the road. He was silent for a moment. That suggests premeditation? Yes, I replied, it does. That evening, Ryan showed up at my door. He looked exhausted. Not from new parent exhaustion, from fear. Mom, we need to fix this. Fix what? You know what? I opened the door wider but didn't step aside yet. Did she tell you why she put my name down? She said she panicked. The insurance hadn't cleared, she just needed a guarantor. So she forged my signature? She thought you'd help if she asked. I studied my son's face. She didn't ask. He looked down. I know, and she didn't want me at the hospital. That was different. No, I said quietly, it wasn't. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in his eyes, not about me, about her. Mom, he whispered, if this becomes criminal, it became criminal the moment my name was forged. He ran his hands through his hair. She just had a baby, and I just became a victim. The words landed harder than I intended. But they were true. As he turned to leave, he hesitated. There's something else, he said quietly. My stomach tightened. What? The detective asked if we'd experienced any other financial irregularities. Irregularities. In what sense? Ryan swallowed. Last month, my sister Emma had a $6,000 credit card she never opened show up on her credit report. The air in my entryway shifted. And she thought it was random identity theft. And now, he looked up at me, now I'm not so sure. The forgery wasn't the beginning, it was the first thread, and someone had just started pulling. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was angry, because I was thinking, if Olivia had opened a credit card in Emma's name and forged my signature at the hospital, then this wasn't panic. It was pattern. The next morning, Detective Ellison called again. Mrs. Carter, we've expanded the scope of the investigation. In what way? We've received 2 additional complaints connected to Olivia Carter. My grip tightened on the phone. What kind of complaints? One for unauthorized credit activity under Emma Carter's name, another involving a small personal loan opened using your nephew's information. I closed my eyes. How much? Roughly $11,000 combined. $11,000 plus my $15,000 hospital bill, $26,000. That wasn't desperation, that was system. Detective, I said carefully, how long does something like this usually go on before it's discovered? In family fraud cases, he replied. Sometimes years. Years, Ryan called that afternoon, his voice sounded hollow. Mom, Emma filed a police report. I know, you knew, the detective informed me. He exhaled sharply. There's more. My stomach sank. What now? My cousin Daniel in Nevada had a medical bill transferred into his name last year. We thought it was a billing mix-up. I didn't say anything. Mom, what if this isn't about the hospital? It isn't, I said quietly. He was silent for several seconds. I checked our joint accounts this morning, and there are transfers I don't recognize. How much? Not huge amounts. 2,000 here, 3,000 there, spread out. That's how it starts. Small enough not to trigger panic. Big enough to matter. Ryan, I said gently, has Olivia ever talked about financial stress? All the time. Has she ever let you see every account? No. Has she always insisted on handling paperwork? Yes. Each answer came softer. Like he was hearing it for the first time. That evening, the detective requested something unexpected. We'd like to interview Olivia. Has she been notified? Yes. And she requested an attorney. That was fast. Very fast. In your experience, I asked carefully, is that common? For innocent misunderstandings? He said plainly. Not usually. Ryan showed up again the next day. He didn't knock this time. He just stood on my porch holding Noah. Can you hold him? He asked quietly. For the first time since all of this began, I held my grandson. He was warm, small, completely unaware of the storm around him. Ryan sat down heavily in the chair across from me. I asked her directly, he said, and she denied everything. Of course she did. She said someone hacked her login. Did she file a report? No, she said the bank transfers were reimbursements. For what? She couldn't explain clearly. He ran his hands through his hair. Mom, I don't know who I married. There it was, not anger, not defense, fear and doubt. That night the call came that changed everything. Mrs. Carter, Detective Ellison said, we've uncovered something significant. What is it? Olivia Carter isn't her original name. The room felt suddenly smaller. What do you mean? She legally changed it 7 years ago. To what? Her birth name is Lauren Mitchell. The silence between us stretched. Does Ryan know? Not yet. And there's more, he added. My heart pounded once. Hard. She has a prior arrest record in Arizona. For what? Identity theft. I looked down at my grandson sleeping in my arms. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't postpartum panic. This was history repeating itself. Detective, I said quietly, how long was she active before her name change? Approximately 18 months. And the charges? Reduced in a plea deal, short sentence, probation, reinvention, relocation, marriage, new target. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. When I told Ryan, he didn't speak for nearly a full minute. Her name isn't Olivia? No, she told me her parents changed it when she was a child. They didn't. Another silence. Then the sound of something breaking, not physically, emotionally. She lied about her name, he whispered. About her past, about money, about you? Yes. And he finally said the words I had been waiting for. What do we do now? The investigation was no longer about a hospital bill. It was about who was sleeping under his roof, and whether the woman he married had ever been who she claimed to be. Ryan didn't go home that night. He packed a duffel bag, Noah's diaper bag, and drove back with me after I told him the truth about Olivia's real name. Lauren Mitchell, not Olivia Carter. Lauren Mitchell. A woman with a prior conviction for identity theft. He sat at my kitchen table long after Noah fell asleep in the guest room. She told me she changed her name because her father was abusive, he said quietly. She said she wanted a fresh start. That may be true, I replied gently, but people who want fresh starts don't hide felony records. He stared at the wall. I ran a background check before we got married. She would have known how to avoid it. That realization hit him hard. You think she planned this? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I asked, when did she start pushing for joint accounts? About a year into the marriage. And when did she suggest you move closer to me? He blinked. 2 years ago. And when did she start talking about life insurance? His head snapped up. Last summer. The room went very still. How much? I asked quietly. A $500,000 policy on me, $250,000 on her. And on Noah, he hesitated. Yes, a cold feeling slid down my spine. This wasn't random. This wasn't sloppy. This was structured. The next morning, Detective Ellison called again. We executed a warrant on Lauren Mitchell's financial accounts. And she's been transferring funds to an account in Nevada. How much? Roughly $68,000 over the past 3 years. $68,000. From who? Family members, small amounts at a time. Is she working alone? I asked. There was a pause. We don't believe so. By afternoon, federal agents were involved because interstate financial transfers, because forged documents across state lines, because prior convictions, and because the Nevada account belonged to someone named Travis Cole. Who is that? I asked. We're still investigating, the agent said. But his tone told me he already suspected something. Ryan decided to confront her against my advice. I need to hear it from her, he said. She'll lie, maybe, he replied, but I need to see it. He drove home that evening. He came back 2 hours later, white. She didn't deny it. My heart tightened. What did she say? She said I wouldn't understand. Of course. She said she was protecting us. From what? She wouldn't say. He swallowed hard. She admitted the hospital form. She said she assumed you'd pay it quietly because you care too much about family to make a scene. I let out a slow breath. That part stung. She thought you'd protect us, he continued softly. Even from her, protect them by committing felonies. And the life insurance? I asked. He looked at me, eyes glassy. She said it was security. For who? She didn't answer. 2 days later, everything detonated. Federal agents arrested her at the house. Fraud, identity theft, interstate wire transfers, forgery, and something else. Conspiracy? When I asked what that meant, the agent's voice lowered. The Nevada account holder, Travis Cole. He's under investigation for orchestrating similar schemes in 3 other states. Orchestrating? Are you telling me this was organized? I asked. Yes, my knees almost gave out. She wasn't improvising, he continued. She was placed, the word echoed, placed into my son's life, into my family, into my home. That night Ryan didn't cry, he didn't yell, he just sat in the nursery rocking Noah, staring at nothing. I thought she loved me, he said quietly. I placed my hand on his shoulder. She loved access. The words were harsh, but they were true. 3 weeks later, new evidence surfaced. Emails, encrypted messages, plans. She had researched our family before meeting Ryan. She knew my retirement accounts, the value of my home, Ryan's salary, Emma's credit score. We weren't random. We were selected. And then came the final piece. The federal prosecutor called me personally. Mrs. Carter, we need you prepared for something. For what? Based on recovered communications, there were discussions about staging an accident. My breath caught. What kind of accident? A fatal one. Silence swallowed the room. If financial access became difficult, she continued carefully, there were references to collecting life insurance proceeds. My hand began to shake. And the child? I forced myself to ask. There were plans to relocate with him. Relocate, or worse. I walked into the nursery that night and watched my grandson sleep. Tiny chest rising and falling, completely unaware. If I had paid that $15,000 quietly, if I had stayed silent, if I had chosen family peace over truth, we might never have uncovered it. Ryan came to stand beside me. Mom, he whispered, you saved him? No. I didn't save him, I just refused to pay a bill that wasn't mine. And sometimes that's enough to unravel everything. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not physically, emotionally. Ryan sat beside me, Noah in his arms, even though the baby was too young to understand any of it. I think Ryan just needed something solid to hold on to. Lauren Mitchell, the woman we once knew as Olivia, sat at the defense table. No tears this time, no trembling, just calculation. The prosecutor didn't waste time. Over 3 weeks, they laid everything out. The forged hospital documents, the $15,000 bill in my name, the credit cards opened under Emma's identity, the loan in Daniel's name, the $68,000 transferred to Nevada. Then they introduced the emails. That's when the room shifted. The messages between Lauren and Travis Cole were projected onto a large screen. The mother has assets, emotional leverage is strong, son is compliant. No suspicion. Birth creates insurance opportunity. If access becomes unstable, execute relocation plan. Execute relocation plan, the prosecutor paused. Mrs. Mitchell, she said, can you explain what execute relocation plan means? Lauren adjusted her jacket calmly. It means moving. Moving where? Anywhere. And the life insurance policies, financial planning. The prosecutor didn't blink. Were you planning to fake your death? Lauren's lips pressed into a thin line. No, the prosecutor turned to the jury. Then why did you research fatal single-vehicle accident statistics in rural Nevada 3 months before giving birth? Silence. Ryan's hand tightened around Noah. I could feel him shaking. The next email appeared on the screen. Grandmother likely to comply quietly, if not escalate? Escalate. I remembered the hospital hallway, the way I had walked away. If I had paid quietly, if I had complied, would escalation have come anyway? Or would it have bought her more time? The defense tried to paint her as manipulated, as coerced by Travis, as afraid. But then the prosecutor introduced her prior conviction under her real name, and the fake divorce documents, and the alias registrations, and the detailed financial research she had done on me before ever meeting Ryan. She hadn't stumbled into our lives, she had studied us, selected us, entered us. On the final day, the prosecutor asked her one last question. Did you ever love Ryan Carter? Lauren looked directly at my son. For a second, just one, I thought I saw hesitation. Then she said, he was useful. Ryan inhaled sharply. That was the moment something inside him broke completely. Not anger, not shock, finality. The jury deliberated less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy, attempted insurance fraud, and an added charge, conspiracy to commit kidnapping. The courtroom went still when that verdict was read, because now it wasn't about money, it was about my grandson. At sentencing, the judge didn't soften his tone. You exploited family bonds for financial gain, you weaponized trust. You plan to stage death for profit, this court sees no remorse. 23 years in federal prison, no parole. When the gavel struck, it echoed louder than anything I had ever heard. Lauren didn't cry, she didn't look back at Ryan. She only looked at me and smiled, as if to say, you ruined the plan. Yes, I did. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked questions. Ryan ignored them. We walked to the car quietly. Noah babbled in his seat, unaware that his entire future had just shifted. Halfway home, Ryan spoke. Mom, if you had just paid that bill, I finished the sentence for him. She would have had more time. He nodded. She underestimated you? No, I said softly. She underestimated what happens when someone refuses to stay quiet. That night, I stood in the nursery watching Noah sleep. I thought about the 10-hour drive, the hospital hallway, the words, she only wants family, and the $15,000 bill. They thought humiliation would silence me. They thought guilt would control me. They thought love would blind me. They were wrong. Sometimes love doesn't mean protecting someone from consequences. Sometimes love means protecting the innocent from the consequences of someone else's lies. And sometimes, all it takes to save a life is refusing to pay a bill that was never yours. It's been 11 months. Noah is walking now. Not steady yet, more like determined wobbling, but every time he crosses the living room toward me with those tiny, stubborn steps, I feel something settle inside my chest. He's safe. That's what matters. Ryan filed for an annulment as soon as the federal case confirmed the bigamy charges. The marriage had never legally existed. Everything built on it, the joint accounts, the shared debts, the trust, collapsed in paperwork and court stamps. It sounds clinical when you say it like that, but I watched my son grieve a woman who never truly existed. He didn't just lose a wife, he lost the version of reality he thought he was living in. Some nights he still sits at the kitchen table long after Noah falls asleep. I keep replaying everything, he told me once. The first date, the proposal, the way she cried when I said I loved her. She studied you, I said gently. She mirrored you, he nodded slowly. I thought she needed me. No, I replied, she needed access. That was the hardest truth for him to swallow. The financial damage took months to untangle: credit disputes, frozen accounts, affidavits, federal victim statements. Every few weeks, another letter would arrive confirming a fraudulent application tied back to her alias. Each one felt like reopening a wound. But every time I felt exhausted by it all, I reminded myself of one thing: this only unraveled because I refused to quietly pay $15,000. If I had chosen peace over principle, we might still be blind. The life insurance policies were voided immediately. The Nevada account was seized. Travis Cole, her partner, received a longer sentence than she did. Turns out we weren't the only family targeted. There were 4 others. Same pattern. Same emotional infiltration. Same slow financial drain, but none of them caught it in time. We did. A month ago, Ryan asked me something I didn't expect. Mom, do you regret reporting it? I looked at Noah playing on the floor with wooden blocks. No, I said without hesitation. Even after everything, especially after everything. He was quiet for a moment. She told me once that you'd always choose family over money. I smiled faintly. She misunderstood. How? I'll always choose family over money, I said, but I won't choose criminals over truth. That difference saved his son. Noah will grow up knowing age-appropriate versions of the story, not the hatred. Not the manipulation, not the courtroom venom. Just this: his grandmother drove 10 hours to meet him. She was turned away. Then she protected him. That's enough. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that hospital hallway. The fluorescent lights, the cold tile floors, my son telling me she only wants family here. At the time, it felt like rejection. Now I see it differently. That moment was the test. If I had argued, begged, or forced my way inside, I might have been labeled dramatic. If I had paid the bill quietly, I might have been labeled generous. Instead, I did something much smaller. I asked for proof, that's all. I asked for proof, and predators hate proof. A few weeks ago, Ryan stood in the doorway while I was rocking Noah. Mom, he said softly, I don't think I ever said thank you. For what? For not staying quiet? I kissed Noah's forehead. Some lessons are expensive, I said, and some are priceless. He smiled faintly. You drove 10 hours for him. Yes, and you'd do it again, in a heartbeat. But next time, I won't wait outside the door. Because here's what I've learned. Family isn't defined by who lets you into a hospital room. It's defined by who protects the child when the door closes. And sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one willing to walk away quietly and then come back with the truth.